podcaster's journey stories story. I'm going to tell you the story of Abi Dawson and her podcast, Try Me. Now, Abby's my girlfriend, and she asked me in 2019 to help her create content around her journey to becoming an amateur athlete, and she was learning triathlon. She wanted the physical side of things, she wanted to learn new skills, but she also really wanted to challenge herself mentally and to develop a better mindset to help her in everyday life, not just in triathlon. Now, I'm going to tell you about the car crash that was this podcast, episode 1. We did 4 versions of this podcast, and I'm going to share with you the mistakes we made in the hope that it helps you create a better first episode than we did. So episode 1, version 1, we got the microphones on a table, we sat down, we poured a lot of gin, and we just talked. It was really informal, it flowed, it felt absolutely great. At the end of that interview, we said, that's spot on, awesome. Abi said, I can do that every week. That's great, thanks Matt. However, listening back, it was just pure car crash. It was nonsense, there was waffle, we were on off mic, you could hear us like knocking bottles and drink. It was awful. It was so unprofessional, and it didn't do what Abi wanted to get out of it. Episode 1, version 2, this was scripted to the hilt. We both wrote down everything we needed to say. It was fully scripted. We did it. It took us about an hour to do because we didn't want to get anything wrong, and we retook stuff and we rewrote stuff while we were going. It took an hour to do something that nearly ended about 35 minutes. Abi hated it. She hated it. She hated it so much, she said she never wanted to do another episode ever again. It just wasn't the content experience that she wanted. Now, episode 1, version 3, Abi came back and said, right, I want to do this, but can you do the sort of scripting, but I don't want it to be word for word. How can we compromise here? So in version 3, I wrote bullet points and I wrote sort of a timeline and narrative arc of where we were going to go in the conversation. This also really didn't work. Abi was supposed to be the host. It's her story. I could be the co-host and I could interview her, but without her knowing where we're going next, it just felt lost, and it sounded like I was interviewing Abi about triathlon, not sharing Abi's story. So that brings us to the just right version 4. So what was version 4 like? Well, version 4 was a collaboration between the two of us. I wrote down what I thought the episode should be about. Abi wrote down what she thought the episode should be about. And we spent 30, 40 minutes going through and building up together what we wanted to talk about and what things to hit. And it went so much better. Was there editing? Yes, of course there was editing. I'm an editor. I would edit it anyway. But it flowed so much easier. We both agreed on what was important. We both agreed on what was not important. And the conversation passed by so smoothly. So that is my little anecdote, my podcaster's journey story of Abi Dawson, and how getting it just right sometimes takes 3 to 4 versions. And ultimately, it was the fact that we talked about it and we pre-produced the show before we pressed record that made it better. So I hope that helps you with your very first podcast episode.